Hi guys, Jenna Laine here, joined with Chris Markowski. We are the hosts of your wake-up call here on AM 820 News in Tampa Bay, as well as AM 1190 News in Orlando. Had a jam-packed show today, did we not?
Including all my screw-ups on hitting the post, by the way.
Oh, we've got some clock issues, clock management issues, but we're going to work on that. We'll get that under control. But a big topic, and really we're going to be talking about this for the next several days, it's not going to go away, is the situation over in Iraq. The fact that, the march now continues for ISIS. They're headed towards Baghdad. And Nouri al-Maliki, he's got to do something.
Yeah, he's starting to remind me of Baghdad Bob. You remember Baghdad Bob back when we were invading Baghdad, coming in there, and our tanks are in the background. He's like, the Americans are not here. I'm like, they're right behind you, Bob. Maliki's saying that he's going to be able to recapture parts of the country with what army?
And
and what army?
And you and I have talked about that. He doesn't have that loyalty there, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Sunnis don't want him in power. He's a Shiite, and the fact that he also gave positions of power to people that were loyal to him, but didn't necessarily have the trained military expertise, which is why we saw so many of them abandon their posts. So, but President Obama has already said that he would not put troops on the ground. They do have a vessel out there, though, that's kind of monitoring the situation. Airstrikes are a possibility, but it'll be really interesting to see what happens with Iran, because Iran has kind of said, you know what, we're going to wait on the U.S.'s lead on this. We could possibly put troops on the ground, and the U.S. would essentially provide the airstrikes, but I'll tell you what, man, do you really want to be making any sort of an agreement with Iraq, given the fact that, we just finished discussions with them, although these are ongoing, about their nuclear weapons program and essentially talking them off a ledge?
We joked about it last week. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch Lawrence of Arabia just to watch what all these various different tribes and factions, Iraq, Shiite, Sunni, and Kurds involved, and none of them have really gotten along, but that's happened throughout the entire region. You're taking a look at what's going on in Syria right now. Various different factions fighting together. Conflicts have been around for sometimes over 1,000 years, and it's very difficult to work through. Saddam Hussein was a Sunni. Ba'athist Party was a Sunni. They dismantled his army. We now have a Shiite in control, and this is where Maliki is close to Iran. Iran has threatened to wipe Israel off the map. We're allies with Israel. We're now looking to possibly ally with Iran. And if you're getting confused, don't feel bad. Everyone is.
Well.
It's very, very difficult to get your arms around, and that's the dilemma the United States faces at this point in time. Jenna, it seems to me it's like there's no good answer. There's no good solutions right now.
And I keep going back to the $20.2 billion that we poured into Iraq to help them train, to help them, have an army that would essentially be able to counter this type of attack by terrorists. And that's not the case. $20.2 billion we pumped in there to train an Iraqi army, and it's essentially gone to waste.
What about the trillion that we spent getting rid of Saddam Hussein and liberating the country? These are major issues we have to deal with. We haven't heard from George W. Bush. Tony Blair, we have. He did a 3,000-word essay in one of the papers in London, and again, he claims that they did the right thing. At this point in time, I don't think it's very hard sell at this point in time. People think that, Iraq is pretty much lost. You take a look at the polls. The American people are most certainly not behind putting anybody there back on the ground. We have sent a carrier to the Persian Gulf to try to aid, maybe offer some sort of alternative. But these are some brutal guys. And how they operate, they've already seen mass killings, beheadings, terrible, terrible stuff that's taking place. These are the type of people that have no trouble strapping kids to their backs and say, okay, shoot me, because you're going to kill these kids, and it's going to be on Al Jazeera, and it's going to be around the world, and it's going to be, you know what, the Americans did it. I smell a rat. I could be wrong on this one, but I often kind of I have an ability to kind of see through things. I think that this whole crazy Islamist thing with this I.S.I.S. is nonsense. I think it's about power. I think it's about money. I think it's about controlling oil fields. I do believe that these guys are Sunnis, true and true. They are not so much the extremists that everyone's making them out to be. I think there's a lot different than what is being portrayed in the news. I'm not seeing suicide bombings. I'm not seeing a lot of the things that you would see with a lot of these true believers. I think they're more pretending to be that in order for cover. So we're going to find out.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, the fact that we've heard 3 different names tossed around for who these guys really are in ISIS. We've also heard I.S.I.S. But, you make a good point, too, in the fact that this organization is comprised about 10,000 strong, and it's comprised of a lot of members of Saddam Hussein's former Ba'athist party.
Who are not extremists.
And they're Sunnis.
They were not the Sunni party in Iraq in of itself prior to us invading the country was pretty much a progressive country in regards to how they educated their kids, not an Afghanistan type of a place. So like I said, something's rotten in this entire story.
We're just going to have to stay tuned with it, but you can definitely count on us at News Talk Florida to continue discussing this. It's not going to go away, and neither are we. So stay tuned for more of that. I'm Jenna Laine along with Chris Markowski. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.